Good morning. You're all very welcome to the SFA webinar, which we have entitled Employer Update COVID-19. I'm joined here this morning by my colleague Emma Crowley, who's the HR expert in the SFA. And in our 25-minute webinar, in these very uncertain and stressful times, my colleague Emma and I will answer frequently asked members' questions on how small businesses can prepare for any disruptions to operations from COVID-19 coronavirus. We will provide you with information on a range of HR issues in order to support employers and employees in their response to COVID-19. And we also will be able to answer a number of questions around available government supports. While we are waiting for others to join, just a bit of housekeeping. We have muted all of your phones to ensure no noise interference. We will circulate the recording after the webinar. And at the end of the webinar, we will send you a short survey to complete, as we love to hear from you and see how we can improve our services. Just before I hand you over to Emma, I would like to highlight that we advise all of our members to regularly consult the HSE websites for any updates and also to check in with our own websites for HR and general business advice, which we update on a regular basis. So now, Emma, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. So, as we all know, the situation is evolving rapidly since last week. As it stands, we are still in the containment stage. However, there is a lot of fear and panic, and we're going to try our best to alleviate some of the queries and concerns from an employment law perspective. We are here to assist members with HR employment law queries. However, all queries regarding the health of an individual, cleaning procedures, and maybe any medical questions should be directed to the HSE. Employers should continue to follow updates from the HSE, communicate and plan for the worst case scenario. I'm going to discuss the questions you've provided and some of the questions I've received in the past 2 weeks in the SFA.
Just to say, Emma, over the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks, the number of phone calls and email queries have gone up substantially. What sort of, in broad strokes, main areas were the questions from our members about?
So we were firstly inundated 4 weeks ago with general queries around communication and guidance to circulate in their business. We prepared documents and policies for our website as a result. We received queries on travel, sick pay, remote working, self-isolation, and most recently inundated with queries regarding layoff and short time.
You mentioned the HSE just now. I know we should be all aware of what we need to do at this stage, but what is the advice that you can give to prevent the transmission of the virus?
So if there's an individual who is experiencing any of the symptoms, no matter what the circumstance, mild or otherwise, if they have been in contact with a suspected affected person, or if they've been to an affected area in the past 14 days, they are then to contact the HSE and their GP and follow their instructions. They may be required to isolate themselves, not to attend work or public places, in which case there are implications for the employer and the employee.
And you mentioned that we have received a number of questions initially around travel arrangements and employees wanting to go on holidays. Can I ask, as an employer, for my employee not to go on their holiday?
So in terms of employee going on a holiday, the employee has to conduct their own risk assessment of the trip, and they should in particular avoid affected areas. The Department of Foreign Affairs have advised against all non-essential travel to affected areas to minimise the risk of the transmission of the virus, and they are constantly updating the travel advice on their website www.dfa.ie.
So that's the employee going on a holiday side. What about foreign travel on behalf of the company? What's our advice there?
So in terms of a company, I suppose you can prepare policies on the foreign travel. The advice from the relevant authorities is that all non-essential travel to affected areas should be avoided at all costs. We recommend all our members to continue to monitor the travel information from the Department of Foreign Affairs. The SFA have prepared a sample COVID-19 document, which is available on our website and can be amended to suit the business and your company policies. Communication is imperative in this regard, and there are documents and campaign posters on the website that we absolutely recommend you to display throughout your business. We also ask you to bear in mind employees who do travel to affected areas may find it difficult to return to Ireland, and employers need to have processes in place to assist employees who find themselves in this position.
So what happens if an employee contracts the virus or is suspected of having contracted it? What's our advice there?
In that scenario, the employee contacts the HSE's hotline and also their GP by phone. You need to follow their instructions. They will advise the employee to self-isolate for 14 days to try to prevent the further transmission of the virus. We also ask our members to read the HSE guidance, which is updated regularly.
And tell me, Emma, what is the situation in relation to payment? Do we have to pay the employee if they are in self-isolation?
Okay, so in general, employees are not obliged by law to pay employees while absent. Their entitlements are generally paid in line with their contract and the sick pay policy. Now, there was the announcement this week that there will be an income support of €305 for anyone who has COVID-19 or who is medically required to self-isolate. Employees can avail of that by receiving a medical cert from their GP by post, sent to the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection. They must fill out an application form, Form BIB1, by phoning to request a form, or you can organise someone to collect it at the local GP's office. I also understand that there will be an online application in a few weeks. But just to note, just like any other occasion of absence, an employee should notify the employer and explain of their potential absence.
So just also to say that to make it easier for you, our members, obviously we're going to update our own website with links then to the relevant department that administers this new scheme. And maybe on this occasion to say, outside of the new income support schemes that the government is about to implement, there's also a range of business supports available out there. It was announced early in the week that there will be €200 million made available as working capital loan. It will be administered through the Strategic Banking Corporation of Ireland, SBCI. Their website is not quite updated yet because things are happening so quickly, but please do check out the SBCI website in regards to this particular loan scheme. And again, the SFA website will be updated with this information as well. Also to mention that the Microfinance Ireland Bank have increased the maximum loan available from €25,000 to €50,000 as a measure to deal with these exceptional circumstances. Again, their website is not up to date yet, but again, we will have information on the SFA website for you as well. And also available through the Pillar Banks is a new credit guarantee scheme that will be available to COVID-19 impacted firms. This is for loans up to €1 million and terms of up to 7 years. Again, as soon as we have more information on the scheme, we will update you. One of the key questions that are coming through, and me also as a parent, what's the advice if I am the main primary carer for my child and there's a decision to close the school? How should employers respond to this?
Good question. Employers can understand that the employee's priority in this particular situation is going to be the health and safety and well-being of their children. The employer should look at this in a reasonable manner, and they have to take a considered and proportionate approach in facilitating the employees who are in quarantine. If a school closes, the HSE are going to provide advice and instructions on the situation. If remote working is a possibility here, the employer should try to get this up and running. you need to try follow the company's procedures where possible, or maybe look at flexible working or swapping shifts. You could also, I suppose, consider annual leave or work back the time at a later date. So good communication around this is very important, how you're going to address it, and also how to ensure employees come to you as soon as they can and talk to discuss the issue.
Emma, you mentioned earlier that the queries that we are getting are changing from the more general questions and travel, remote working issues. What is the situation with introducing layoff and short time to my employers? How should this be handled?
Well, firstly, employers need to check that their employment contracts allow it. So check for the clause. They should informally communicate and give as much notice as is reasonably practical of their intention to short time or layoff to their employees. So a letter of intention and the form RP9 can be used as the formal notice. Our advice here is that you should contact your local intro office for more details. Okay, so there should be a fair selection of employees for the temporary, short time or layoff, whether it be based on their experience, skills or length of service, last in, first out. For example, it would be unreasonable and a breach of Protection of Part-Time Work Act to only select part-timers for this. There are potential redundancy implications if an employee is on short time or layoff for 4 consecutive weeks, or for a broken series of 6 weeks where all 6 weeks fall within a 13 period. I know that's a mouthful, but we do have a comprehensive guidance document available on our SFA website, which I would recommend everyone to read. And if any business is faced with this situation, they can contact me on my email, emma.crowley@sfa.ie, to discuss.
And when we talk about employees on temporary layoff and short time, would they qualify for something like job seekers allowance?
Yes, so employees on layoff may be entitled to the job seekers benefit, provided they are available and capable to work, and they also satisfy the PRSI contribution requirements outlined in the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection. Employees on short time may be entitled to claim the benefit for the days they don't work, provided they are reducing their working days to no more than 3 days a week. So, for example, if an employee is requested to work 3 out of their 5 days, they can claim the benefit for the other 2 days not worked. If an employee works 4 out of the 7 days, they are not entitled to claim the benefit in that regard.
And nearly coming to the end of our frequently asked questions, what are agency workers' entitlements in the crisis? Because we don't want to forget about them.
In terms of social welfare payments, this will entitle everyone who is employed or self-employed, and no worker should be discriminated against or left behind. It should be noted that no employee should be treated less favourably in the workplace than another during this crisis. Can I also just thank everyone for tuning in this morning? It's an extremely challenging time for everyone. At this stage, we have circulated the HSE guidelines several times, and we do ask you that you communicate this to every member in your business. We are currently inundated with queries, and we're getting through them as fast and as efficiently as possible. So if I haven't gotten back to you regarding your query, just note that I will be getting back to you as soon as I can. And if a member's company's question was not covered during the webinar, you can contact me on my email. Again, it's provided on the slide.
So thank you, Emma, really thank you, and thank you to our members for bearing with us, and we really are with you and we want to help you to the best of our ability. So as Emma said, we have a lot of information on our website. We have the email addresses, you have our phone numbers through our website as well. And just to remind you, on this slide, you'll see the HSE website links to this regard. Just to say that on our website also there is, apart from the HR advice that we have mainly focused on today, advice on general business contingency planning, in particular a very interesting checklist developed by the Department of Business, Enterprise and Innovation. You'll also have information on supply chain management, and as always, and this has come through to a number of queries that we got, communication is key. So obviously communicating with us, but first and foremost, your communication with your employees about what's about to happen, your communication with the banks is really important, your communication with your suppliers, with your customers, but also don't forget to talk to your accountant and through your accountant to try and reach out to the revenue. What we are doing this week now is we will circulate early this afternoon the recording of this webinar to all members. We will also issue more information on FAQs and issues that have come up in the meantime, and also look at sectors like the hospitality sector, like the retail sector, like the tourism sector that are impacted there. And we're also doing our own contingency planning at the moment. We're testing, can we, if we are not in the office, organize webinars from home, for instance, and we are able to do that. So we're planning on a number of webinars over the next while to keep you updated this way. So really thank you all for listening. Best of luck, and we would really appreciate your feedback answering a quick questionnaire about our webinar. God bless.